If you have a mother that's toxic or emotionally immature, there's a good chance that she might be preoccupied with death, specifically her own death. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. I've been counseling women and men who have experienced abuse, as well as those who have been perpetrators of abuse and other violent crimes. One of the things I wanted to get on here and talk to you all about tonight was, mothers who may be fixated on their own death, specifically having control over their death at the end. And, sometimes when you have mothers that want to be the center of attention and have to have control over everything, they do it even in death. And so one of the ways that they may do this is they may talk about how they want their end of life to be, and they want to make sure that that they're still sort of ostracizing or distancing themselves away from their children. And so what that may look like is, when I die, I don't want any of you all to interfere. I'm going to, I'm going to make all these arrangements for, my life, my will, and all of that. And I'm not going to share that with you all. So it's more of a keeping you in the dark. And, fathers can do this too, but I've seen this more commonly with mothers, where it's like, I'm planning for my death, but I'm not going to include you all. I'm not going to tell you, anything about where my important paperwork is, so wills and things like that, all of the things you guys may need up to and after her death. So that would be one thing. And then, there's complete control and being dramatic too. I think, the other piece would be being dramatic about, her death. So it could be something, like I'm going to lay down in the backyard and I'm going to die, because none of you care about me anyway, or I'm going to drive myself, or I'm going to go to the woods, or I'm going to drive myself off a cliff, and I'm going to die in this dramatic way, all because, no one cares. And, I have to, just do this to myself, and I'm going to wither away, somewhere, and, because my children don't care about me, and I'm going to meet my demise. And nobody say anything, and don't pretend that you care, and don't bring me roses after I'm gone. And it's always sort of this thing like, you don't care about me. So, if the animals come and pick me apart, it's all because you didn't love your mother, that sort of thing. And another thing, that may happen, when they're sort of fixated on their death is, the expectation that you will pedestalize them, essentially putting them up on a pedestal when they pass away, and thinking that, you're going to feel sorry for the way that you treated me. When I'm dead and gone, you're going to feel bad. You're going to realize that you were a trash child, and that really I was a wonderful mother, and everybody's going to know it. So there could be this romanticizing about death, this flirtation with death, about how, there's going to be this grand epiphany amongst everyone that she was the center of the universe. She was the sun, and all the stars and all the planets rotated around her, and you and everyone's going to know that. So there could be that. There can also be like, just sort of this like, I can't wait till I die so that everybody can see, everybody can sort of have this come to Jesus moment, and you could get some sort of, her children can be punished. You could be doomed to damnation for thinking that she was a bad mother. In other words, she wants you to suffer for the rest of eternity, forever questioning her, whether it was legitimate or not. She wants you doomed to damnation and hell on earth, forever sort of questioning her, having any sort of resentments, complaints or concerns about her ability to be your mother. Other parents or mothers could, threaten suicide whenever they, their children are upset with them and try to uphold boundaries or demand better behavior. And it's a way to be very manipulative, try to gain the upper hand in the relationship and to avoid any responsibility. So let's just say, you, her child, may have some concerns about, Mom, I don't like how you did that. I don't like what you said, or your behavior is inappropriate. You don't need to talk to me like that anymore. Well, I should just go out and kill myself then. I'm just a horrible mother. Everybody always says I'm a horrible mother. And, you can, depending on your mom might up the ante a little bit and really put on an Oscar-worthy production, complete with crocodile tears and, maybe even call her friends and, wail and all these kind of stuff. Have a mama trum, a mom trum, a tantrum, but for moms, and really just sort of lay it on thick about how she should just off herself. She's terrible and no one will ever love her. And this life is horrible. Her kids hate her and there's nothing worse. She has failed as a mother. She has failed as a person and there's no reason for her to go on. It's really a Meryl Streep worthy Oscar presentation, if you will. And on top of that, she will be sure to reiterate, I've just done the best that I can for you all, my children. You all just hate me so much. I don't know what I have done for my children to hate me so much that they would just speak to me like that, or they would think so low of me. And you know what? I should just kill myself and end it all now. And it's very, very manipulative, and they can go on and say, I should just lay down and die right here in the backyard. Don't anybody come to my aid, since I'm such a terrible mother. Really sort of digging the knife in and upping the antics, and really just being very melodramatic and just, focusing on that, refusing to engage in conversation or take accountability for her behavior. You can also have mothers who mention the fact that, hey, I thought about killing myself after the fact. Again, it's not usually legitimate. It's usually something that's used to weaponize and to get you back into shape and get you to fall back in line, whenever they feel any sort of heat or expectations or demand for, you to respect boundaries or better communication. It could be something where they mention after the fact, I have the pills, I was in the bathroom, and I couldn't deal with it anymore. And, what you said really bothered me and I was just gonna, take myself out, that sort of thing. So suicide is really used as a way to weaponize. You see this a lot, not just with moms. I haven't seen it as much with dads, but dads can do it too. But, partners can do it with each. I've seen that more with partners, when I've seen it with men where, and it shows up a little bit differently, and I could certainly do a separate post on that if you guys want that. But let me know, what you guys think if you've experienced mothers who weaponize their death, weaponize suicide, or, flirt with death, and they use death as a means to escape or avoid conflict or, expectations for respect of boundaries and things of that nature. Let me know what you think. Thanks so much.